What is going on, guys? This is Kyle from the Shadow Realm, bringing you my Darklord deck profile for August 2019. So I picked up this deck pretty recently, and so far it's been very fun. I've play tested with it a lot because I just love how the deck runs. I love the little synergies you have here and there, and I love the theme. Basically, in my casual play tests, I've been assuming that this is the Darklord Link monster, which is really going to help the deck out. It's not out in the TCG yet, but once it does, I'll make a little update video. But for now, we just have the Wee Witch's Apprentice as kind of like a placeholder. Basically, the whole point of this deck is to draw a ton of cards to fix the deck's main flaw, which is consistency and draw power. So I kind of added a ton of draw spells to alleviate that, and so far it's been really working out for me. The deck's super fun and I really like it, and I want to show you guys what I did, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So in this deck profile, I'm going to be assuming that you haven't really read a Darklord card, or that you really don't know how to play with them, because for each card I'm going to be kind of explaining it in pretty big detail what they do. So first off, you have your triple Darklord Ixchel. So Ixchel's probably one of your best starter cards. Basically, you discard this and one Darklord card. So it can be one of the spells and traps, or it can be another monster. This is usually pretty good with Superbia in your hand. If you have those two, you can go off pretty well. So you discard those two and you draw two new cards. So it's not a plus, but you're getting these in the graveyard, which is really nice, and you're getting some advantage, which is really good. And then, as a quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life and target one Darklord spell or trap in your graveyard. You shuffle it into the deck and apply its effect. So the Darklord spells and traps are really good. Like one of them's a Searcher, one of them's a Reborn, one of them non-targeting pops cards, takes control of cards, and negates effects. So they're really good, and to have them so easily accessible in the graveyard with your monsters is really nice. And the last thing to note about these Darklords is that you can only summon them once per turn. Well, you can only special summon them once per turn. So, I mean, I guess if you tribute summon it, you're not really going to be doing that too much, but yeah, you can only summon one of them a turn, basically. Now, next up, we have the oldest Darklord in here, which is Darklord Superbia, which you definitely want to play 3 of. Basically, when it's summoned from the graveyard, you get to special summon another fairy, except himself, from the graveyard. And that's not once per turn, so this is how you get all your big boys back on the board, and it's just a really nice discard fodder, because you really want to get it in the graveyard and then summon it, because you basically play 4 Monster Reborns, and so many ways to get to it. Like, it's really good, so definitely want to play 3 of him. And he's level 8, which helps for rank 8 plays. Next, you have your double Darklord Nastin. So with Nastin, these bigger Darklords, like the newer ones, they all have effects that you use, like you discard other cards. So with this one, you can discard 2 Darklord cards and summon him right from your hand. He's a 2600 beater, level 7, which kind of helps sometimes with the rank 7s we have in the extra deck. Anyway, so he has the same effect as Darklord Ixchel, where you target a spell and trap in your graveyard. Well, you pay 1,000 life, target one, shuffle it back in your deck, and then apply its effect. So, and you can only spell summon once per turn. So for him, he's mainly just really good at getting your spells and traps to the graveyard, because you have to discard those 2. And then he's just an easy summon out of your hand most of the time. So next, we have your 2 Darklord Amdusk. So with Amdusk, you only play 2 because it's kind of weak. It's only got 1800 attack. It's level 6, which doesn't really help us a lot. But what's really good about it is you can discard it and one other Darklord. You target a Darklord card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So this is how you recur your resources if you don't have a Darklord on the board. So you just go ahead and grab a spell, use the spell, and move on with your day. Again, it has the same effects where you pay 1,000 and use a spell or trap in the graveyard, and you can only summon once per turn. So it's the same thing. And now for the one-ofs, you have the smallest Darklord, which is Darklord Ukabak, level 3. When it's normal or special summon, you can send one Darklord card from your deck to your graveyard. You can only use that once per turn. So this is really fun to just... It's a really good normal summon if you didn't use your normal summon yet, or just summon it from grave. You mill a spell and trap so that you can use it later. Or you can mill Superbia, which is really good. So this guy's nice. But you only play one because other than that, he doesn't really do anything, and you can get him a lot of other ways. So, and then finally your big boss monster, which when the Darklord Link monster comes out, this card will be really a lot easier to get out. It is Darklord Morningstar. So this guy is a 3k beater that cannot be special summoned. He can only be tribute summoned. So you need 2 tributes, which the Darklord Link monster really helps out with, because you can tribute stuff from your graveyard by banishing them. So he's basically free. So what he does is when he's tribute summoned, you can special summon Darklord monsters from your hand or deck to your field up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, effect monsters. And then his last effect is once per turn you can send a number of cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard up to the number of Darklord cards you control, and then you gain 500 life for each Darklord card milled. So this guy he can easily mill like 4 or 5 cards a turn, which really helps you with your mill game, getting all those spells and traps that you can use in the graveyard, getting those key monsters in the graveyard. It just really helps out. And that's actually going to be it for the Darklord monsters. There's not a whole lot here, but this main core is what really helps you, win the game essentially. And you just play so many draw cards, and you can pretty much get to them anytime you want. So next we play the Star Seraph engine. So we have the 2 Star Seraph Scepters and the 3 Star Seraph Sovereignty, the staff in the chair. So the staff, you normal summon it, you add this guy to your hand, or normal or special summoned, and then with this guy, if a Star Seraph monster was special summoned, was summoned this turn, you can summon him to your field and then draw a card, and then if it's a Star Seraph, you get to summon it. So basically, the main combo with these two is if you have these in your hand, you normal summon this, use its effect to go ahead and grab another one. This guy goes off, and then this guy goes off, and you draw 2, because it's not once per turn with the summoning of the chair. So it's just a little 2-card combo that gets you cards, and it gets 2 fairies. Well, it gets 3 fairies on the field, which you can use to make the Link monster, which only requires fairies. So once that Link monster comes out, this is what you'll want to play for sure. As for right now, it's just another draw. It's just another way to draw cards. If you don't want to play this engine because the Link monster is not actually out yet, I would suggest putting some dangers in here, because the dangers, some of them synergize pretty well because they're all dark. Some of them are level 7, and they just draw cards, which is really nice. So, but as soon as that monster comes out, I'm definitely going to be playing the Seraph package. So, speaking of dangers, I went super budget this time because all my expensive dangers are in my other deck right now. So right now I only play 3 Dogman and a Chupacabra. 4 dangers seems pretty right, to be honest, because you just play so many draw cards as it is. And I chose Dogman because he's level 7, and that really helps with getting, like, for instance, Big Eye out on the field and stuff like that. And then Chupacabra, just summoning from grave. But yeah, honestly, you can just use any dangers you want in place of even these and these. So it doesn't really matter too much there, but you want to go for like the level 8s and stuff like that. So Bigfoot would be pretty nice. So that's actually going to do it for all the monsters in the deck. Let's go right to the spells. So for your spells, you have, for your first Darklord spell is Banishment of the Darklord. So all this card does is it adds 1 Darklord card from your deck to your hand, and it is a hard once per turn. So the really cool thing about this is you can use this to search out. So for instance, if you have Ixchel in your hand, you can use it to search Superbia, and then use those 2 to draw 2 cards, and then get a way to summon them from the grave, which if you then have Ixchel on the field, you can use her effect to search another card, because you can only activate 1 of this card per turn, but you're not activating this card, you're activating Darklord Ixchel's effect. So that restriction doesn't really apply. You can use this a lot, multiple times a turn, but it shuffles back in the deck, which is why it's basically used only twice per turn. So yeah, this is a very crucial card. It's any Darklord card. It's basically your best card in the deck. Now, to really start your combo plays, you have the other Darklord spell, which is your triple Darklord Contact. So with Contact, all it does is you target a Darklord in your graveyard and summon it in defense mode. So that defense position thing really hinders your OTK potential, but honestly, if it was just attack or defense, it would be kind of busted. So, because with this, again, you just use Ixchel or whatever other Darklord you have, summon another one, and then that one can use the other stuff from the graveyard. So, yeah, and you play 3 of them. So, it's really nice, searchable off of the spell as well, and that's why you play that. So that's all the Darklord spells. So now the rest of these are draw cards. So since everything is dark, you're going to be playing your 3 Allure of Darkness. Banishing like a danger or something really doesn't hurt. Sometimes this is really good because you play it and then you don't draw any dark monsters, so you send your whole hand to the graveyard. And sometimes that's a really good way to get spells and traps in the graveyard. So that's why you play the Allure. I play the 2 Pot of Desires. Again, banish 10, draw 2. It's just really good. The banishing does kind of stink if you mill one of the traps, because the traps are very good and you only play 4 of them. So, but honestly, that doesn't really happen too much, and the drawing is just far too good to pass up. Next, we're going to be playing Card Destruction. This card's especially good because you want your spells and traps in the graveyard. Like most decks, before they use this, they're going to set the things they need, and then they're going to go ahead and use this. But for this deck, you don't care. You just want those things in the graveyard, and you want to keep drawing. You want to keep going through your deck and drawing cards. So Card Destruction is just nuts. And then we have Upstart Goblin because it's Upstart Goblin. Sure, your opponent gains life, but that doesn't really matter in the long run if you're getting an additional card. Next up, we play Reasoning. Everything in this deck is a different level. And sometimes in most decks that stinks, but in this deck it lets you play Reasoning, which is just busted, so you can just get free summons off of that. And then of course the 1 regular Monster Reborn, just the better version of Contact. So yep, there's that. Finally, for your traps, you have your double the Sanctified Darklord. So all the traps have the same activation requirement. You have to send a Darklord card from your hand or field to the graveyard. So that activation condition does kind of suck, but when it's in the graveyard, it really doesn't matter because you're using it without having to do that. So with the Sanctified Darklord, it negates 1 effect monster's effects on the field, and then you gain life equal to its attack. So it gets by all those monsters that say can't be targeted by anything, because this doesn't target, and in fact none of the traps actually target, and this really helps with you gaining life because you're losing life a lot in this deck to get your traps in the grave activated, so that really helps. Next you have the Darklord enchantment. Same activation requirement. You have to send a Darklord from your hand or field to the graveyard to activate it, and then you just take control of 1 monster on the field until the end phase. So, well, it has to be one your opponent controls. So obviously you can't activate it if they don't control anything, but honestly, if they're going to go swing big with something, you can just flip this, or you can use an effect from one of your Darklords and just gain it, get that monster right back. It's really nice. And then finally, probably your best one is Darklord Rebellion. Same activation requirement, but this time it lets you destroy 1 card on the field that is not targeting. So this one's your non-targeting removal, and you definitely want to see this in the graveyard at all times. Milling it, either discarding it from drawing. There's a lot of ways to get this in the graveyard, so that's why that really helps. These traps are very good, but you don't want to play too many of them because they do brick. Like, they're very good, but if you just set 5 pass, you're not really going to be doing anything because your other Darklord cards aren't in your hand. So, and you have to send a Darklord monster, so you have to have, the monsters, not the spells and traps, to even use them. So that's that. Now for your extra deck, you have the triple Wee Witch's Apprentice. This will be the Darklord Link monster when it eventually comes out, but for now we have this. Just gains attack, really easy link. Nothing much else for that. You have your 1 Pentastag. Sometimes your opponent just keeps putting stuff in defense mode, so this helps you get by that by doing piercing. Then you have your 2, some of the Nightmares, Phoenix and Seraphs, just the cheaper ones. And then the bore load, because bore load's very nice. You can make this sometimes. It's mostly to just push and win the game though. So that's actually going to do it for all the links. Next up you have number 11, Big Eye. Big Eye is another control card, so you just detach, take control of something. Rank 7. So this is what you make with Darklord Nastion and Danger Dogman. So you can make that pretty easily. Now for your rank 8s, you have the number 38, Hope Harbinger, and number 68, Xenophon the Sky Prison. So this guy gains 100 attack for every monster in each graveyard, and you can detach one, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, neither player can summon stuff from the graveyard. So mainly what you do is you do your whole plays, you swing for big damage, and then you go into this. If you know your opponent uses their graveyard a lot, you just detach, make sure they can't do it, and then pass. So really good. And then Hope Harbinger just negates spells and gets them as material. Really good card overall. Next we have the Spider package. So we play the Ravenous Tarantula and then Pain Gainer. Next we have number XX, Utopic Dark Infinity. It's just a really big beater. Level 10, you have some level 10s in here. It can summon things from either graveyard and it gains you life, which is pretty nice. I've never really gone into it, but honestly it's pretty good. The main thing you're going to be going to though is your Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. Just deals 2k damage, and then you can overlay right into this big beater that gains a crap ton of attack. And it's just fun. It's just a fun board to end on because this guy's really hard to get over. So yep, that's going to do it for the extra deck. And that's going to do it for the deck profile. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and consider subscribing to the channel. We are growing as a kind of small community here. So it's been really fun so far, especially on the Discord. We have a Discord, if you didn't know, and we just post some fun little Yu-Gi-Oh stuff here and there, and we're trying to grow it slowly. It's slowly growing, but we want to get more people on there so we can just have like a little Yu-Gi-Oh community. It'll be really fun. Hope you guys check it out, and we'll see you in the next deck profile.